casually explain photography lesson.
Opera and their new Opera One web browser. Now that we all have cameras in our pockets,
It's about
photography has become more
ONLYFANS.
accessible than ever, but not so much the art form it once
Is there in
was.
the
Many
title.
years ago, there was a time when photographs were still a horizontal phenomenon, as camera technology had to slowly evolve for decades before finally gaining the ability to stand upright. While parents around the world struggled to develop the
Phone
perfect
camera.
stance to master the artistic form, in modern times, however, Gen Z has become much more subtle and relaxed in their photographic style, realizing it's not how you take the photograph that counts, it's the caption you put on it before you send it to our inbox. Because all human beings on Earth have a cell phone camera except my dad, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of reason to get an actual DSLR, but it can be well worth the effort. For example, a
Unless
lot
you
of girls
do
look at their Instagram and
professional
think to
stuff.
themselves, "Ah, I wish I had professional photos, but I don't want to spend $1,000 on a camera." And a lot of guys look at her Instagram and say, "Bro, she's looking for a photographer. All I need is $1,000 and I could be with her." Now, in basic economics, this push and pull is called simping and is the foundation of not just the modern gig economy, but pretty much all of human evolution. The biggest decision you can make is the jump from a phone camera to a DSLR or film SLR camera. This is because of two major factors. Firstly, you can swap the lenses on these bad boys, meaning you never have to worry about where to waste your next paycheck. And just as importantly, they have a much bigger sensor. An entry-level DSLR has a sensor about 5 times bigger by area than most flagship cell phones, and
I
professional
didn't even know
full-frame
that.
DSLRs have a sensor about 12 times bigger. The reason the sensor is so important is because a big sensor makes your photos look more professional. This is the industry term for a photo of anything with a blurry background, or the kids in 10 years will think was made with Midjourney. Now, newcomers to the field who are getting the hang of their camera inevitably ask the question
Blurry
of, what's the
background.
best way to make money as a photographer? And as most veterans in the industry know, the best way to make money in photography is by selling your equipment. With that out of the way, when you get into photography, the most important thing
Thanks.
you're going to be doing is figuring out what you enjoy taking pictures of. So let's go through some of your options. Macro photography. Unintuitively, macro photography is for taking pictures of things that are really small, like insects, flowers, or someone's eyeball. Micro photography, on the other hand, is for taking pictures of things that are really small, like plant cells, amoeba, and other microorganisms. While you might have expected me to make a joke
This.
about dick pics, I'm not using a macro lens for that. I'm, of course,
Oh,
using a
what?
wide angle. Wide angle photography. Wide angle photography makes things look way bigger than they are. Tilt shift photography. Tilt shifts is when the lens angle is altered from parallel and you get this neat miniaturizing effect. If you want to know what the experience is like, it reminds me of those videos where people try a $500 Japanese strawberry and are like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Then 5 seconds later, they're like, "Well, I guess that was it." Wildlife photography. Wildlife photographers are some of the real OG photographers. I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer when I was a kid, so I studied all the equipment and all the creative
Kind
ideas
of
that went into
dangerous.
photo competitions. And while the judges of the Nat Geo photo competitions clearly never do that, I did discover that every pro wildlife photographer definitely did. And what made them stand out wasn't technical ability, it was that they were willing to camp in a 5 square foot acrylic cage in the Arctic for a week to take a photo of a polar bear trying to eat them. And that seemed like
This
a lot of
video is
work
kind
for
of
a photo,
insane.
but every wildlife photographer I looked up said, "Your best photo is the one you take tomorrow. The joy is the never-ending search." And that really struck a chord with me, so thus began my first search, which was Nat Geo photographer average salary. And so I said, fuck that, I'm playing StarCraft. High dynamic range photography.
Wait, what's the
HDR
salary?
photography is taking multiple photos at different exposures and then stacking them together to get more of the scene at the desired brightness. For example, our eyes have a pretty high dynamic range, meaning if you made a campfire at nighttime, you could stand back and see both the campfire and the stars in the sky. But a camera has a much smaller dynamic range, so if you took a picture of the campfire, the stars would be pitch black, and if you took a picture of the stars, the fire would look way too bright. This is the reason why if you watch the moon landing, you can see the astronauts and the moon clearly, but the sky is pitch black. This is because the camera that they were using simply didn't have
Camera
enough
can
dynamic range
focus.
to see the LEDs in the studio. Disposable camera photography. Even though the very hipster color palette is caused by the horrendous lens, flash, and camera quality, film is nevertheless a full-size 35mm sensor, meaning you're technically using pro-level equipment. One of the downsides of a disposable camera is that it's fun, which is in strict contrast to real professional photography, which must always be stressful or else you go to photography jail. Infrared photography. Infrared photography is a very niche type of photography that produces photos that look like this. The reason you want to take photos like this is because when you show someone, they're going to say, "Wow, those colors are so cool. How did you edit it like that?" Allowing you to tell them that it's not edited, that's just how your new
It's just
camera works. And as you
photography.
continue to explain your new hobby to this uninterested bystander, this actually tricks your brain into thinking you've made a friend. Landscape photography. Landscape photography requires two things: going
There's
to
a
New
lot of
Zealand or
photography.
Norway and then climbing a mountain. This is way too much work for so little clout, so just use AI for the picture and then avoid your friends for a month and they won't be able to tell the difference.
Okay.
Paparazzi photography. A lot of people criticize
I'll just
paparazzi because
use
they recognize
AI
that celebrities have emotions just like
or
everyone
drone.
else, and anyone can be devastated by an embarrassing photo. When an insecure teenage girl doesn't get as many likes on her Instagram post in the first 10 minutes as she usually does, she gets upset, deletes the app, and wishes she could punch whoever's in charge of Instagram in the first place. Even if you're a billionaire on a super yacht and paparazzi posts a picture of you looking fat, then everyone on Twitter makes fun of you. It's the exact same thought process. First I'll delete the app, then I'll punch Mark Zuckerberg in the face. Sports photography. Sports photography is like the opposite of paparazzi photography. You're just trying to take a photo of a ball, but celebrities keep getting in the way. Portraiture. Now, when it comes to portraits, there's so much diversity for photo shoots that there's really something for everyone, and so it really depends on what you want to do. For example, glamour. I want to shoot models for the covers of magazines. Pet. I want to shoot cute animals frolicking with their owners. Wedding. I want to shoot couples to remember their special day. Yearbook. I want to shoot high school kids. So now that I'm
Okay,
demonetized, if you ever decide to become a professional
that's wrong.
photographer and get your first paid photo shoot, you might panic that the client might not like your photos. But don't worry, there's no way that the client can dislike your photos because you left your SD card at home on your laptop. Now, this is going to suck for the first wedding you ruin, but once you've moved cities to avoid those people, from now on you'll make sure to always have 16 memory cards from years past that you've never thrown away, even though most of them could barely hold a Mario Party save file. This compulsive hoarding also applies to batteries, second and third cameras, tripods, flashes, laptops, and literally yourself, which is why almost
Actually, a lot
all
of
pro
equipment.
photographers have an assistant photographer, just in case they themselves have a heart attack during the shoot and disappoint the client. This level of paranoia might seem excessive, but it's nothing compared to when you have to fly somewhere with your equipment and the check-in lady says, "Okay, your bag is checked through to Los Angeles." "Oh, my mistake, I meant Las Vegas." And you're just there thinking this is not going to be a good trip to Vancouver. The joke, of course, being that you're flying Air Canada, so you were never leaving the airport anyway. If you're new to gig work, the unfortunate reality is that much like being a Reddit moderator, you'll very quickly realize that your income doesn't relate to how much you think you deserve, it's based on how much other people think you deserve. Meaning the hardest part of trying to be a professional photographer isn't taking the photos, it's dealing with the clients. Because you have to remember the freelance paradox. The lower the budget, the higher the
people
expectations.
there.
If you're offered $500 to shoot a wedding by someone on Marketplace or Craigslist, you're going to get a CVS receipt of instructions, 20 unannounced edit requests, and then they're going to ask for a discount because they didn't look like Ana de Armas and James Bond like they asked for. In contrast, if a corporation pays you $5,000 and flies you out to shoot an industry mixer, you'll send them a couple of sample edits to see what type of photos they were looking for in the final package, and in 25 seconds you'll get a message back saying, "Money sent. Thank." While this might seem like the opposite of what you expected, this phenomenon is easily explained by my golden rule of bureaucracy. Give me a problem, and I'm willing to spend any amount of someone else's money to solve it. Ultimately, photography has become more difficult than ever to make a living, and almost all professional photographers have now transitioned to video and content creation because many of the skills of composition, lighting, framing, and emotional storytelling carry over to video and can make a lot more money, whether it's many-vids, clips for sale, or just vanilla OnlyFA. And while ex-wedding photographers are now following the money instead of God, ultimately, that's just basic economics. Speaking of basic economics, as a YouTuber, I make my income from ads, which is why whenever I get a new computer or use a new web browser, the first thing